Okay, you ready over there, Michael?
Cloud service.
Okay.
Oh, you don't
What's that?
say anything about going first?
Yes, we are. Do you want to turn that, are you on?
I'll turn it off. I thought you were
No,
gonna,
no,
someone
turn it
move.
on. No, I didn't know if you were on or not.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
we're on.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We should be done 15 minutes. Good. What are we gonna call it? What's it? 7, okay. Okay, we're in executive session and just came out, so we'll get on to our regular agenda. Number 2 is a resolution, number 10, 2018, setting a time and place for public hearing, proposed amended village code for chapter 64. We did get a late email from the co-chair, Kathleen Foley, asking if we could postpone it to the next week, so I would like to table this. I'll make a motion to table.
I'm sorry. What,
I'll make a motion to table, and then we can go from there with
Okay.
discussion.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion?
if April 24th is no good, then why not make it May 1st?
Well, I didn't get it, I don't know if everyone's available at that date.
Okay.
I mean, if it's good for us, I guess we have to just run it by the HDRB.
I mean, she's put all the time and put everything, she's probably putting the PowerPoint together, so I know we've moved it around, but
One question on the resolution. It says that the village board is going to be the, it's unlisted? It's identified as an unlisted action?
I don't, where are you with the
I'm in the
So-
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th paragraph.
the
Village board
resolve?
here,
Yeah.
that the village board classifies the action as an unlisted action? I'm surprised.
I'm sure they talked to John regarding that,
Okay,
or we can ask him.
I will.
Okay. So, all in favor to table?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next, discussion on sewer flat rate increase. Our sewer fund is always in need, replenishing at the end, and we've tapped into the fund balance last few years to cover. Last rate increase was 2014. There is 2 scenarios that we looked at. One was to increase $8 a quarter, and one is $10 a quarter. This would raise enough money to make the sewer fund pretty much self-sufficient, although that might not even cover it, but it will at least cover the majority.
And the additional cost there is the bond payment, which is coming up either in the 18-19 fiscal year or the 19-20 fiscal year, which is going to be in the range of $42,000 a year. So, in terms of discussion, it seems to me that $10 per quarter increase will put us on an even footing for the bond payment and potentially require less money from the general fund annually.
I think when we discussed this a couple of weeks ago, we had originally said we were gonna put off an increase for the flat rate, but at that point did not realize that the bond payment would probably kick in for the 18-19 season, and we don't have enough in the fund balance, I think, at this year to start making that payment and keep the fund afloat. So I'm in favor of a $10 a quarter.
I agree. Steve?
Yeah, I agree.
Lynn?
I do too.
So I'll make a motion that, well, we have to, I guess we'll make a motion to agree on the number and then set a, public hearing date.
Right,
So I'll make a motion that we increase the, sewer flat rate to $10 a quarter.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
It would be
Vote.
by $10 a quarter, not,
What's that?
it would be, increase it by $10 a quarter, not
Yes.
to $10.
You said
Oh, did I? Okay, I'm sorry, thank you.
Just for clarity.
Everyone would appreciate that. Okay, and next we have to set a,
what about the 24th?
I'm fine,
Mm-hmm.
You wanna do it at 7 o'clock, since that's now available?
yeah, okay. You wanna make that motion?
7 p.m.?
I make a motion to, set a public hearing on April 24th at 7 PM on the proposed quarterly flat sewer rate increase.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next is discussion on the, craft beer fest. Is, John's son was,
Yeah, he was out in the hallway before.
yeah, I told him we'd be done at quarter up. Well, we'll go to the next one. I told him we could adjust if, because he wanted to be here, so I don't know if he had to be anywhere or not, so. So next we'll go to approval of telephone equipment and system upgrade. I know Marie had questions on this, and I think Fran did also. I think that Jeff contacted the company and had them answer directly, I think, or came up with the answers, and then he forwarded them. Fran has also called at least three municipalities that have this system, so I will,
Frank,
I spoke today to Anthony Ruggiero, who was the city administrator at Beacon. He actually called me back at a little after 5 tonight. They've been with ITC for over 20 years and they're delighted with them. They have great service. He said they're in the process of changing the phones. They have old phones, and so they're in the process of looking at a new system, but it's all through ITC. And they have no problems with them at all. They're very happy with the service. I spoke to Christine Schenkman in the village of Washingtonville, and she loves ITC and have used them also for close to 20 years, and she is the village clerk in the village of Washingtonville, so nothing but praises. And also from the village clerk, Valentina Johnson in the village of Maybrook. She has had them, she said, they're in a new building for 4 years and they did the move over. They had them in their old building. They did all the move, so they've never had any downtime. She said the service is phenomenal, the price is right. They're very, very happy with the system. I did make one call to the village of Montgomery and spoke to someone who was not the village clerk. The lady I spoke to said the company is fine. She wasn't tremendously enamored with the new system that her village just put in because she thought it was a little bit overkill. But, and she said it wasn't user friendly, but that was the system that the village chose. But other than that, everyone has glowing reviews for ITC and the service, and so I have no issues with, with looking at them and going with them.
We just put a new phone system in, last year. We put a new phone system
Who'd
in.
you use?
I'll think of it, but I can't think off the top of my head, but it was relatively very inexpensive. I don't know who you get your service from, your phone, your phone bill, who do you pay out to?
Magnified, I think
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
Magnify,
It was another name, they just
they
changed.
just changed,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, I'm looking to get rid of
And
that,
it- Are you?
yeah. But anyway, I'll give you the phone, I don't know how elaborate your phone system is, but ours is pretty straightforward and basic.
Ours
Well,
isn't
we have a lot of
elaborate.
features that no one even uses, or wants to use.
Yeah, I mean, ours is a bit archaic, has been in forever. It's something that I think Elliot put in years ago.
Yeah,
how many phones do you have in your
about
system?
20,
Does that include highway?
yep, highway, and
Okay.
it also includes rec center.
Oh, rec center too, right.
I'll find out and get you.
so where do we wanna move with this? I wanna move ahead. we've gotten numbers, we have recommendations, were your answers or questions
They
answered?
were all satisfactory.
We don't have the original, I don't have the original in here to move this ahead.
Can we just make a motion to have Jeff and Michelle move forward with this?
I'm fine with that.
So I'll make a motion to have, Jeff and Michelle move forward with ITC, getting the phone equipment and system upgraded, get that box off the wall that we bang our heads on and get us some new phones.
I will second that. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next is, and I'm not sure why this is on here because of our procurement policy, I could've just gave an okay on this.
Right.
Anyway, the relocation and disconnect of Christmas lights, the poles were moved, the Christmas brackets are on the existing poles, or the poles that the lights were removed from and lines, so we now have to move them at our cost. So we have a quote from Padala for $1,450, and I'll make a motion to accept that quote and move ahead with the work.
Second that, yeah, you got it.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
I forgot that we could approve that. That's why I had Jeff put it on there.
Okay, let's see, we have a letter from the executive, Mary Ellen Odell, which was lost in a stack. Of course, it is the town board also, I guess we don't give too much respect down here, but dear Mayor Dave Morandi and town board members,
Get
the
promoted.
Butterfield Senior Center is moving forward. I'd like the Phillipstown Town Board, again, I'm not sure if that's supposed to be the village, maybe this isn't even to us, I don't know, to work with legislator Scuchamara, who is chair of the Health, Social Education, and Environmental Committee, and the County Executive's Office on determining the programming that will be offered at the center. Legislator Scuchamara, who has been a Butterfield senior advocate, will also be seeking input from the village, Phillipstown seniors. Our goal is to provide services that stimulate the mind and the body. In addition, the center will offer companionship, nutrition, education, health, counseling, blood pressure readings, talks by local physicians and pharmacists, transportation and shopping assistance. Understand that by offering these services, our senior population stays healthier and live at home longer. In addition, I would like for us to work together on the naming of the center. As requested by the developer, the naming of the center will also be discussed at tonight's meeting. Please contact blah, 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 Putnam County. I look forward to seeing your recommendations. Anyone have any recommendations or anything you would like me to send?
Well, it looks like she's just basically asking us for suggestions on naming of the center, and the letter was dated March 5th, and they were going to discuss it that night at that meeting.
Okay.
So I don't know if it makes any sense, or is it?
I mean, I could send something if someone has
No.
any strong feelings on it.
What did you guys say?
I forget what we came up with, but Butterfield something, senior center, something like that, Phillipstown, Butterfield, senior center, something like that.
Yeah, I think it should be.
And it was, like I said, we got the letter too, like a couple days before the meeting as well. So I did call Barbara and gave her a name, something, I put exactly what I told her, but I don't know what it was. Something to that
So
effect.
if anyone does have any strong feelings, let me know. I will send them. As far as programming go, I would think that I would leave that to someone who understands the needs of seniors and the seniors themselves giving that advice. So,
And I think,
Was Betty Budney's name?
No, because we're naming a road after her, one of the roads up there is being named after her, I thought.
I think.
you have to get to a different level of sainthood before you have the building named
She
after.
just did so much for seniors.
I just think that, we should leave people's names off of it. I think it should be just the Phillipstown Senior Center.
Yeah, I think that's what
Yeah.
we said, Phillipstown Senior Center, something like that.
Okay. Lynn, you're up.
Oh,
Oh, I think I missed that. He
Oh,
still hasn't
did
come.
you
Go
miss
ahead.
one?
Yeah, we'll do that and see if John Shear's son comes around. Are you ready or no?
yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
I move to approve batch number 4522 for the amount of $68,041.18.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approval of minutes, Village Board of Trustees meeting, February 6th, 2018. I'll make a move to accept.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Yes. Michael, are you gonna take this down, or should I get you a copy?
It would be easier if you could
I'll get you the copy.
scribble it.
Okay, so in the first paragraph, after a third line, trustee Steve Loto was absent, period. New sentence, also present was village accountant. The W-2, under January financial report, W-2s and 1099s have been completed and sent out. Those are nits. Fees for police accident reports. I thought we approved the increase in the fee, and it's not mentioned here.
Where are we at?
Under fees for police accident reports, this is the,
Yeah, we did. We did agree on it. An
do you remember
increase.
do you remember what we agreed to?
No, we don't.
So definitely this was approved. Michael, do you have the video for that?
It should be posted, yeah. It's
Okay,
on it's up on YouTube.
so maybe you could look up the amount.
Can you tell me where it is in?
Yeah, on the first page, under January 2018 financial report, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The
Fifth
fifth
bullet.
bullet, fees for police,
We approved it from $5 to $20.
I'm sorry,
We went from $5 to $20.
$20, okay. Never mind, Michael.
I can do that.
And then, under, approval to paint subway tunnel by Haldane Middle School students. First sentence, Mr. Early noted that village insurance coverage will need to be expanded to provide coverage for this activity. So we need the word provide in there. And on the last page, public comment, Stephanie Hawkins, I have the correct spelling of her name, I'll provide that. And down in the fourth line, Mayor Morandi stated he would confer with the village attorney. That's it.
Okay, so we're gonna set another motion with an amended,
Yep.
I'll make a motion to accept the, Board of Trustees meeting of February 6th, 2018 with the corrections, edits that we, just discussed.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is trustees monthly meeting, March 13th, 2018. I'll make a motion to accept. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion?
yeah. Preliminary discussion of 2018 budget, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. On the 11th bullet, Ascolillo will use the results of this discussion to create a revised budget. And then 3 more bullets down, the water sewer department show a $230,000 deficit, but this may be balanced, delete the word that. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's the comments.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the trustees meeting of 3/13/18 with the edits Marie just went over.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Who seconded, I'm sorry?
I did.
Okay,
Okay, John's son is not here, so we're gonna scoot back up to, where was that anyway?
Five?
Number 5, yeah, discussion of craft beer fest. I gave you just gave you an email which I just received tonight from, Bruce at 612, the chair of the rec committee, with some, I guess, some items on there. Basically, I think we're all familiar with the festival. I think one of the big things concerns was the amount, a fee. Second, probably the most, is the concern of having a festival such as this. But we do the Knights of Columbus one. He has done a number of bigger festivals which do include alcohol. There's a son, we just started. There's a list of things that Bruce brought up from the rec committee that I think would have to be sorted out. So I think if we want to go down through them, I guess one was the fee for this, where there was no fee set for something like this for a profit. It's gonna be, according to John, the numbers are high on it, the number of people that'll be there. Looking at the Beacons and other municipalities' fee schedules, it was like 1,500 to 2,000. If we do move ahead with this, I would recommend 2,000. That's input from the board on that, though.
Looks like the rec committee is looking more like 1,500 because Mayor's Park is smaller than what usually is at Beacon or Peekskill in terms of area.
I just think I think the same, issues that arise in a little bit bigger
Yeah.
place or whatever can happen here, so
Do we have a date on this yet?
I don't.
What
Yeah.
is the date?
June 16th, Saturday of Father's Day weekend.
Saturday of what? Father's
Saturday
Day.
of Father's Day.
In setting fees, I think, it's not just about the size of the park. I think it's really more about the impact on all the residents. In Beacon, their park, yes, it's larger, but it's also kind of separated from the main business district of, the city. The same can be said for Peekskill. So Mayor's Park is so close to the business district. If we have 1,500 to 2,000 people there on a Saturday, that can have a huge impact on what happens on our sidewalks. People getting to and from, and also the number of vendors that they're talking about, vendors or beer folks that are gonna have to drive there. I would like to have them park instead of at the pavilion. I'd like to have you guys arrange for some satellite parking for the people that are actually gonna be working this fest.
They're working it.
That are the beer vendors as well as the folks that are
Okay.
putting it on. I believe that parking for those people should be on some sort of satellite place, not adjacent to.
Yeah, we
Mayor's
can always
Park.
push, like 90 field, because we will have a shuttle trying to take people at least to and from the train station.
Mhm.
So, this would be a couple hours before where we could use that same shuttle to take vendors and therefore to properties.
Just to clarify,
Yes,
Philip,
ma'am.
that the original projection was 2,000 to 2,500 people. This email says 15 to 2,000. What is it that you're planning for?
I mean, it's hard to project. 1,500 to 2,500. I know it's a discrepancy to 1,000, but it's hard to say 2,000 to 2,500 this far in advance. I think it depends on marketing and our advertising. The faster we can do that, the faster we can get a better estimate.
Would it go over 2,500? Are you putting a top on
The
it?
cap would be 3,000. I don't think we could get to that. This is a first year event,
So.
But that is your cap,
The
3,000.
maximum would
I
be.
think
I,
that,
I think that's too much.
yeah, I think
Seems
that
like a lot.
what this says in this email is that Larry, the officer in charge, has requested that you have a cap of 1,500 to 2,000. So,
Given that the entire population of the village is 2,000 people, admitting 3,000 people does not make sense to me. It's just, I think it would just overwhelm the infrastructure and impact the quality of our residents' weekend. But you're right, Fran, that Larry is suggesting a cap of 1,500 to 2,000. All of this is going to be pre-event ticket sales, correct?
Yes,
No-
ma'am.
no
If we're under that limit, then we would just do the rest at the door. Like if we're at 1,400, we could sell, an extra 100 to 600 at the door.
How many tickets do you need to sell to make this a viable thing for you?
We don't have the numbers yet for that. I've heard of events that run on just 500 people the first year, and then the second time they do it, because of getting the word out for the next time. Some people do twice a year, some only do once a year. It does increase. So I don't know the minimum that we're going to do.
have you notified Metro North, because, people are gonna be spilling onto the train station, and typically on weekends, the trains are running once an hour.
Yeah, I'm not completely
Putting the
sure.
old cart before the horse, I'm sure they haven't contacted them if you haven't even been approved, I would hope.
Yeah, no, I don't think we have contacted them, but that would be a big thing once we're approved to really push taking Metro North to just get people not driving.
I'm afraid I didn't hear what you said about the advanced ticket sales and sales at the gate.
So if we don't sell out before the event, then any of those excess tickets we would sell at the door.
Okay, and if we requested that there be a limit to the number of total tickets sold, you would adhere to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to talk with everyone else, but yeah. I mean, we would have to, wouldn't we?
What I don't see on this list is mention of insurance. I know at one point,
This is Bruce's list, not his list.
right, okay, but I mean, it is a definite requirement.
I'm not sure.
At one point, I
It
think
is.
there was discussion that there would be insurance from all the vendors,
Yes.
which is, I mean, in my thinking, I may be totally wrong, the insurance from the vendors is not
That's not,
our responsibility, we want insurance from you
So-
guys.
what John said when he was here last was that, if I remember correctly, that each of the vendors would provide a certificate of insurance to him. He would provide to the village a certificate of insurance covering everyone, all vendors, and all participants.
Okay,
So-
yeah,
so-
which is, okay, I just wanted to get that.
Yeah, for everyone that is involved with this event will be required to provide us with their insurance. The more specifics of that, John would know better than I would comment on that.
I would suggest that on those certificates that they provide you,
Mhm.
that they list the village of Cold Spring as an additional insured.
As additional insurer,
As additional insured. That's what all vendors at
That's
every
pretty
event
standard.
have,
Yeah.
every event in farmer's market have to list
List.
the owner of the
Yeah,
property
down
where
now
the
it's sort of
event
like
is
going all over the place.
happening as an
It's,
additional insured.
Okay, it'd be good if we just, as I suggested, go down,
Yeah, sorry.
1 to 9. We went to fees, which, we can determine, I don't know what people's feelings on that. I would say $2,000. Can we agree on a number there if we do agree to pass this, and then we'll work our way down?
I'm good with 2.
Me too.
Okay, I'll go with
Okay,
you.
so we'll set that at 2. Okay, second is, I guess and I don't think we're getting, yes, the cap we'll get to later. Next is police. Larry mentioned this is from Bruce in an email, Larry mentioned having 2 police officers on duty that day. for the event. I think police should be, our officer in charge should determine how many people he thinks are needed, and it's at the rate that PBA rates, whatever it is.
Okay.
So he's the one that determines that. And that's, you know, I know there's down lower, there's some mention of additional security or plainclothesmen. I don't know what that's about, but Larry will be the person that's going to be in charge of, you know, in charge of this event as far as security goes.
So that raises the question, are you planning to hire security personnel or on the field?
I'm not sure at the moment. I know that we were gonna pay for the officers to be there, but inside the event security, I'm not sure at this moment.
Okay, so we would need some clarification
Yep.
on that, and I think that's what was meant by number 3.
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
Added security, sure.
this says, security 3 or 4 more police off duty in the field itself. So it says police slash, I'm not sure what that means, or if John had talked to them and said you were planning on something, so.
Okay.
But I guess the bottom line is security would be up to Larry to determine what's needed and the amount of officers he is gonna request. It wouldn't be one of the guys that's on duty that day, they'll be doing their regular duties in the village, and then whatever the cost is.
But I think part of the off-duty piece of it is that, I think Larry said he can't be putting a bunch of our police to work then, because then they have overworked their hours and their shifts or whatever they need.
Right.
So if it's gonna be, it's gonna have to be off-duty, secured
Then
by
it
them,
then it has to be
has to be
hired by them.
hired by them,
Right.
and not part of
Right.
us, if they can get, or wherever you get them from.
Okay, so again, Larry's the person you talk to
Yes.
about security, he's the one that I'll be contacting and he'll be responsible for that. If everyone agrees on that, I think he's the one, okay. So we can go down, the garbage is the responsibility of the applicant or requester, I don't know if requester is actually a word. Take in, take out policy, so you'd be charged for whatever's going in there.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. I guess what's not mentioned there, I mean, also the cleanup of the area I haven't talked with Bruce on this, and it's not mentioned here, would be your responsibility also.
Of course.
The beer permits, you'll be responsible for that, obviously.
Mhm.
And I think this has to be coordinated, we have to have somebody that's gonna coordinate to make sure all of this is in place, so I don't know.
Yeah, he's got that listed.
He mentioned something down the line there,
I
yeah.
think it's number 8.
But should we have somebody, okay, we'll get to that, I'll be doing what I was just, okay, so beer permit would be your responsibility, porta johns, your responsibility, and I would have no use of our bathrooms,
Yep.
our bathrooms will be
Sounds fine.
locked. And also, like the location of all the different, the logistics of everything as far as where things will be located, be a coordination with Bruce,
Mhm.
okay? With
I
the,
think we did.
with the
provide
rec
that,
department?
yes. We did provide a layout, yes.
yeah, it was
It was like a drawing.
quite rough.
Yeah.
And also the number of vendors seem to go up and down, and we really need a kind of a better idea on
Maybe.
how many vendors and where they're gonna be.
Yeah.
I mean, that was really rough, so I'd request a number of vendors.
How many vendors do you have committed to it now?
Vendors like non-beer, correct?
No beer.
Beer
No,
All
not,
together.
altogether?
Can you give us each number?
we're giving you all things,
Specifically,
we're throwing a lot at you.
yeah, I mean, we don't have specific breweries that are definitely coming. We didn't wanna go too far ahead without getting a permit. And same with vendors, I mean, I know a lot of the vendors in town, so I've talked to a lot of them, and approached them, but I'm not trying to get a hard yes out of them and get them to sign up without being able, you know, I don't wanna have to go back and tell them no. So I mean, a lot of them in town are aware, maybe like 7 or 8 restaurants in town, roughly. Beer, I mean, we've talked to 4 or 5 distributors, and that can range from 2 to 10 breweries each. So,
Now,
it's tough to really say specifically what we have on each.
I thought your father had also mentioned as other vendors, non-food vendors. So someone might be there selling a local craft.
Yeah, jewelry or some canned,
Exactly.
yeah. I mean, we do have a lot of contacts for that, and those are the type of people that they really look to have their business built in those types of situations. So again, we would just wait until we really have the day set in stone that we can contact them.
So the beer was 3 distributors?
No, like
and-
about 5 distributors, which they all have a whole host of breweries.
I thought John had said something in the range of 34 different craft beers,
We're looking to have 50 taps, or 50 brewers.
60 different types of beer.
No, 100 different types of beer. So it would be like two taps per brewer. 50 brewers.
So there'll be 50 craft beers or 50 taps? Or,
No.
okay,
50
you got me confused.
50 brewers, 2 taps
Two
per
taps.
brewer. So each brewer can bring 2 different kinds of beer that they like.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And each person gets to have,
So an average that is provided by distributors
Yep.
that all go to these events, they say that the average consumption per person is 32 ounces. Because you have small pours.
Right.
You only have 3-ounce pours, 4-ounce
Right.
pours. So really throughout the course of 3 hours, they're only drinking 2.5 beers total.
These aren't the beer drinkers I know.
This isn't an
Count me out.
Oktoberfest. This isn't an Oktoberfest. This is an Oktoberfest.
but they essentially have unlimited
Yeah.
pours.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if they really want to drink as fast as they can,
Right. They could.
we're not condoning that, and that's not really. You're there to talk about the beer and learn about it and learn about, like, what we really want to do is push brewers from the Hudson Valley
Right.
because that's what we want.
Yep.
It's nice to have that. It's like Silicon Valley with businesses. You know, we want to incubate brewers in Hudson Valley. So it's nice to know about those small ones that you can't really find in stores. So that really means talking to the brewer that's pouring it for 5 to 6 minutes. So that's 3 ounces in 6-10 minutes.
Okay.
You mentioned that you've been talking to restaurants in
Yep.
town to be food vendors.
Mm-hmm.
You understand that they need separate permitting for that, that their location permit does not apply to a satellite food service operation.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
they do. They either
No, I'm not
need
saying
a
that.
temporary food service permit issued from the Putnam County Department of Health,
Mm-hmm.
or they need to be carrying a mobile food service permit as part of their regular business.
Now, would this be the same as, say, if one of these restaurants catered an event?
That's to be a permitted satellite caterer, off-premise caterer,
Mhm.
that's a separate permit
Correct.
from the health department, from your restaurant permit, which only applies to that physical location.
Okay.
There are a couple of ways you can do that. You can get a separate permit, which is, I believe, $200 a year, and you can do mobile food service all over the place.
Mhm.
You can get a satellite catering permit, which is a separate thing, and it involves a lot more service.
Okay.
They also issue temporary food service permits for food service operators that do not do this as a regular thing.
Mhm. Okay.
But they would have to have one of those 3.
Okay.
Okay, moving along, Next is the parking attendance. Do you have, that's on here, are you familiar, or do you know what you were thinking of there?
The attendee, the people paying
Attendance.
tickets or
No, it said
us?
parking attendance. Sounded like you were, or Larry was recommending, or it just says parking attendance, someone that helped in the part.
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
We need to find out from Bruce what he means by that.
Okay. Next, which I was referred to before, was a coordinator or for the event, someone that's gonna make sure everything's in hand as far as permits and everything go. I'd leave this to Bruce to coordinate with him, and the rec department. They have a fee of maybe an additional $30 an hour. I don't know, you can coordinate with Bruce, whatever, if he has someone that'll do it, first of all, and rec will be there, and what they would charge you, so that would be an additional charge that is
You're
requested
saying
on.
that is required?
It's being requested, I would,
Okay.
you could hammer that out with Bruce,
Okay.
but we definitely need someone, if they can't do it, then we,
Is some of the work that's being requested here tasks that can be accomplished beforehand, such as beer permit, check, insurance forms, check. So some of that can be done ahead of schedule on the day of the event. I'm not sure what the responsibilities would be.
I'm reading what Bruce.
I know,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I understand. I would talk to Bruce, I think if he did create a checklist and had everything in order, that, and if we have police down there, I don't know what you would need someone else for, so.
Okay.
As long as stuff is, the only thing is maybe where parking's going, to ensure, the vendors are in the right spots, or, stages in the right spot, but that's gonna be set up probably the day before.
Somebody who knows where the electric is and has a key to the electric box.
Right.
And one thing I can think of for the day of is after the event is over,
Mhm.
cleanup, that
Yeah.
the field is left in as a very reasonable condition.
Of course.
And from what I understand, the tents aren't coming down until Monday. So there's a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Is this a rain or shine event?
Mhm.
Those beer drinkers.
Give them a tent and a mug and we'll be,
Let's see.
Hopefully it won't be snow and stuff.
The next one, which is not numbered, I think that's going to be up to, John,
Us.
the goose droppings,
The goose.
yes.
That's the
We're gonna
Rex.
we're gonna put up dogs the night before and just keep them away.
Better keep them there for about a month.
Yeah,
But the problem is the droppings,
I know. I know.
do the dogs, I
No,
don't
no,
wanna
we don't
hear,
eat it. There's special dogs that.
I don't wanna hear about it.
they'll scare the goose away, but.
That's something also discuss with Bruce on how you, accept the field, or what your feeling's acceptable too.
Sure.
The other ones I think we've gone through.
The security deposit, I think, is important,
Well,
that's the
this-
cleanup.
There's a security deposit, but I think we should also have a bond too for this event.
Oh,
I think we should have $1 million bond is what we have from, I'm not sure what the cost of that is. It's not $1 million, but, I think that so that we're assured nothing crazy happens. I can ask our attorney if that's, I believe you would recommend doing that. So that might be an additional you should just look into, and I will talk to our attorney on that. Okay?
and the security deposit, the recommendation was $500, and that would be a refundable security deposit, assuming that grounds were left in the same condition. That does not mean you have to put the goose droppings back. You can retain
And
those.
nothing was damaged.
I think that's about it.
When do you need to know that the village approves?
To be honest, since it's like 2 months out, as soon as possible would be best. I don't have a date, and that's something that, I mean, he might be able to give you a better time when we need it.
So how quickly can we get,
What's that?
how quickly can we get,
I think we just
Them.
need that bond thing. I mean, we could do it next week if I talk to John.
Do it in a week?
Yeah. I mean, how, just like, so we're not dragging you on, how does everyone feel about this if we get some of this other stuff?
Yep.
Is everyone fine?
Seems fine,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep,
Okay,
give them
so we're kind of giving you a, you know, a gentleman's handshake right now.
provisional.
Okay.
Okay,
That
so
works.
I don't wanna hold you up or whatever, and then we'll put it on our next week, or the next meeting's, agenda,
Okay.
and approve it there. And as long as we get a few things worked out, we'll talk to Larry and Bruce and make sure we're on the same page with everything. All right?
Yeah, that'll be fun. Thank you for your time.
Yep.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
You too.
Anything else from the board?
Yeah, I was wondering when, we're gonna start opening the bids for the firehouse roof. Something we haven't discussed
I
yet.
think it's in a few weeks. We put the ad out.
Oh, we've already have?
We put the ad out.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, we
Okay,
did.
good.
Sorry.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
there was a date, May, is it May 13th? No,
No, it's
April.
not May, it's April.
How did I miss that? I must have been out, I was absent
It
then.
was, yeah, it wasn't,
It wasn't during the meeting.
no.
No,
Oh, okay.
it's in a few weeks.
Okay, good.
Is the bid opening, we've got like 3 or 4 people,
Okay,
and they're trying to get more. It's gonna be put in the papers again this coming week.
okay. I'll send an email to the same guys last
Yeah,
time.
okay, yeah, great.
Okay.
Yeah, we sent them to, the people that bid last, well, just the guy that bid lower bidder last time. So,
All right,
I think,
very good.
was there anything else? I think that's about it. I see some residents from our dirt roads here, some old neighbors, that I haven't seen in a very long time, so, I'll open up to public comment.
Curious what's happening. We hear things from the outside.
That's
and we're
dangerous.
Concerned.
Can you kind of just identify yourself just for our camera, and then we can,
Mark White, Hamilton Street.
And Paul White, brother, and my mother lives on Hamilton Street also.
So, at our last meeting, the highway chief, new highway chief, had recommended or sent us an email, with concerns about Hamilton, more about Belvedere than Hamilton.
We're here from Belvedere, by the way.
Excuse me?
We're here from Belvedere, by the way.
Okay, yes, I know. Sorry, didn't mean to omit you from the.
No, I just wanted to-
It wasn't
didn't wanna-
intentional. Yeah,
Sorry.
right, okay, segue right in. The concern with East Belvedere was potholes and, having to back up, with guys on it or on the sides and the control of the truck. This is what was stated by our highway crew chief. With Hamilton, I believe it was some of the potholes, but more about the turnaround, and I'm not familiar with that, so maybe you can tell us about the turnaround.
Plowing
You can't
specifically.
plow, you can't get around the turnaround at the end.
It's an interesting circumstance because it's been there since your time, my time, before that to some degree. The truck decides to back itself in on certain occasions, and then on other occasions, like the recycle pickup, they'll come around.
And they turn
Successfully.
around there or back up after they come in?
No, they'll back in typically for Tuesday,
Right.
as they did today. And then on a Friday with the recycle, they'll, not as a absolute, but they will motor in, cab forward, drive right around the circle and right back out the road.
So is the circle?
It's either
the-
or, both
Not
ways.
your property, the circle, it's the street.
What I'm finding is I've got maps that show our property lines, the meets and bounds. And there's one property, my mom's, that actually goes across the street into the center of that circle, the cul-de-sac. Every other property, mine included, is bordered and pinned on the extreme outside boundary of the street. So the street belongs to everyone and no one. It's not private, because nobody has jurisdiction over it to say, I'm shutting it down, I'm opening it up, I'm putting up a toll gate. It's open territory. So,
Okay.
that's,
And as far as plowing goes, that's what was mentioned, that was more mentioned about that street, so again, I don't understand this, you know, I don't, I'm
the
not familiar
plowing
with
is
what
the
plowing.
same as your plowing of any other street. That's, it could use a little help, and we haven't, I'm not complaining, but we haven't seen a whole lot of extra activity of keeping it maintained, because you guys look at it and say, oh, it's a private street. Well, it really isn't, but we pay taxes. So it's a semantic of who really owns it and who's responsible for it. So,
So as far as the plowing goes, we can get into the other, cause that's kind of,
okay,
that's the
well, let's
gray
follow
area.
on with the
But the
plowing.
plowing, is there anything that's impedes them from, you know, making that, you know, from,
To physically make the turn now,
Yeah.
with the red 1-ton pickup you've got, the utility body truck, they motor around there like
things
anybody
that
else.
also? No.
And it does a good
But
job.
with a regular plow?
Yeah, and then I go out with my tractor, which I saw I was mentioned on one of the emails, and I clean up, do my driveway, Mom's, and a couple others. The typical berm of snow that's a result of,
I think what Bugsy said was that they couldn't get the big plow, and I'm not familiar with around, but that's one of the residents, and it may be you, usually helps plow that circle area because they
Yeah.
can't get around that.
yeah, well, it's
And
easier
that's-
just to keep driving
yeah.
forward, that's the.
I mean, it's hard to
blessing
get,
of
it's
that.
hard to get it around when, you know, when it's possible. I don't know, I don't drive a plow truck, I don't even drive a truck, you know, and I'm not, I mean, I'm vaguely familiar with the area. I mean, I'm taking it from Bugsy, who has been working in the highway department for many, many years, so.
Well, I've observed there are, I don't know who it is, but I see the technique and the care in what they do, and some people, whoever's running it, some are really good, they'll do a decent job, and some others are one swipe through and I'm out of here. But plowing is plowing.
I'll talk to the highway chief about your situation with the plowing, get better understand. It doesn't seem, from what I know or whatever, that should be a problem, I don't know.
No,
Okay.
hasn't been a problem up until
Now, you said your mother,
the last week.
you said your mother's property extends into the roadbed.
Right, and I can abandon that immediately. It's not a problem. That was just a function of an old property layout, that end of the street, like, you know, from your time, was undeveloped. So when Dad built his house, where Mom is, that was the first piece of construction from the main house up into the end of that property. So that was just a function of that, and then the road became something thereafter, as
So
it evolved.
If I were to look at the roadbed, including the turnaround
Mhm.
at the end, and if I were to go to the county, I would be told that there's absolutely no private property that exists along that roadbed, including the turnaround,
Correct.
that is all free and clear and not owned by anyone.
Short of that small wedge of my mom's, that's the only
Okay, and
intrusion into that.
the small wedge is the little
That's the-
circular,
No, it's
Part
just a
of it.
piece at the far,
right,
the furthest up you can go.
okay, and there's a road that goes off to the right, to the trailer,
Yeah.
and then another road that goes up
Yeah,
to
well,
one
it's just
house,
a driveway, technically.
right, and then another house, and then the new house,
Mhm.
well off to the left.
The trailer and the new house are the same guy,
Roger,
yeah,
right. Okay,
who I haven't spoken to since 2001.
okay.
So I'll talk to Bugsy about, I'll see what I don't see the problem, so I'll find out what that is as far as that goes.
Okay.
As far as everyone else is
Oh,
concerned.
so one thing I noticed today, there's a huge pothole at the end of Hamilton,
Mhm.
which seems to have formed more this year than it has in previous years. I don't know, now you mentioned that when the garbage is picked up, he backs in,
Mm.
and,
They'll go either way, depending on what
well,
suits them.
what
Typically,
happens is you're at the end of the garbage run,
That's what, yeah.
right, and so the truck is loaded down, and so
It weighs the same as it ends up on the end of the street, technically.
pardon me?
It's not not gaining any great load
I'm
from.
going to compare it to when it's doing recycling. When it's doing garbage pickup, it's got a significant load, a tonnage in it. When it's doing recycling, it has significantly less tonnage in it.
Okay.
And so one of the comments that Bugsy made was that the trucks are lower to the ground, carrying more of a load, and therefore it is more dangerous for them when they're doing garbage pickup. And I believe that's why they back in for garbage. I thought that when they did recycling on Hamilton, they also backed in, but you're saying they do not.
It's a one or other, it's not anything absolute.
I'll watch on Friday.
Yeah, it's random,
Okay.
but I have seen it come through forward, so. And all the oil trucks make it around, and there's practically everything else does too. The argument from days gone by is the shape of the circle and then some pre-described radius that's approved in some accepted norm for a turn that would service some fire equipment or something else has been used in the past. But functionally, things get around it. I had a semi in there about a year ago, and it was a struggle, but he made it.
I'll follow up.
Okay.
I see, I understand it all.
It's a matter of semantics and opinions.
What's that?
It's a matter of opinions.
Right.
That's a problem.
It seems like people have turned around there for a long time and, for it to now be a problem, but, so we'll take that. The, going to both of the maintenance part of it, that's the part where it's kind of shady as far as who's actually responsible for that. You know, like we have been doing it, or then sometimes like, well, I think there's a difference between maintaining it and actually repairing it, like in the spring. And again, I don't know exactly how much work has been done there, or it's done there every year, so I have to get that information. But if we're going there and filling potholes as a repair, it's different than us maintaining the road in a way. I mean, it's then grading it or, you know, making it, you know, like they do on other roads like Phillipstown does, like, you know, for the dirt roads. I mean, I think there's a line there where it's like, you know, we're filling holes and that's to prevent, you know, for our trucks or whatever. That's kind of what I understand. Again, this is new to me, and I understand that, you know, at one time Lake Belvedere almost, they wanted to go, you know, sign it over to the town or to the village. And there was one neighbor that wasn't willing to do that. I'm not sure as far as how property owners, or are you familiar, or is your property actually, do you own any of that
He
road?
just said no,
Well,
No,
he
ours
said no
has-
about his.
Right.
I'm asking about theirs.
and they do.
Maybe, I think it's that would probably be a subject for the real estate attorneys, but my recollection, my understanding was that we did own to the center.
No,
But I can't speak for anybody else on the road.
Okay. All right, yeah, that makes a difference. I didn't understand that.
We- That's our understanding as well, that at East Belvedere, the owners of property on East Belvedere own to the middle of the road. For whatever reason, I thought the same thing was true with Hamilton.
Well, I've got maps. I don't have anything for Belvedere, unfortunately, that would be that as descriptive as what I have.
And I think, what Bugsy was asking now, maybe not necessarily for both streets, but on, East Belvedere, because it is a privately owned street, that the residents of East Belvedere do the same thing that the residents of the other privately owned streets in the village do, which is bring your garbage out to the end of the privately owned street, which means bring it out to 9D. And I think that was what the discussion started out to be. There are, I think, 2 other privately owned streets in the village. They bring their garbage out of their street, so we don't have to go into the privately owned street, not because we think you gotta put a fence up, but because, you know, that's where we pick up the garbage. So that was the request that Bugsy had for us last week when he presented this. Partly because he feels the road is dangerous to get in there, and partly because it is a private street, and for private streets, everyone else just brings their garbage to the edge.
It raises a couple of different issues, and I'm not in the slightest bit empowered to speak for my street. there's only some of us who even know that there's anything afoot. But it seems to me that there's a couple of issues, one of which is parsing the word maintenance, of course, the maintenance of the street itself, which, if there was a decision made to stop doing whatever has been done for however many decades, I feel we ought to be consulted or informed. And then it seems like that issue seems to have bled into this other issue, which is access, because it's only become apparent to us recently that nobody seems to be filling the potholes that have been developing there.
Right.
And that is a difficult situation, a more complicated situation separately, because that street was halfway towards paving with tailings laid in, etc. So it's not a graded dirt road right now. The drainage isn't it, like, it's all not how it's supposed to be right now.
Right.
We didn't get to the finish line, and we didn't retreat back to the previous state either. So am I speaking out of turn?
Nope, we're with you.
Okay. I'm the person who should know least, because I've only been there for 11 years.
Well,
but,
we know
okay.
enough, yeah.
My name is Mike Santos. I own 7 Belvedere East. I've been there since 2005, and every year they come in and they fix the potholes. They just fill the potholes up for us, and maintain the plowing and the garbage pickup. So I'm here because I just found out yesterday. Wow.
There are also some people on the street for whom it would be a hardship to do that.
Right.
To do what, sorry?
To bring their
Bring the garbage down.
No, I understand. That's
Just
why,
for-
the last was actually a suggestion, the recommendation to start immediately, so I said, wait till we, find out. We'd definitely notify you if we were gonna do that.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I understand that.
The only other aspect.
As far as the grading's gone, has the county or someone done grading on that road? I understand.
The county did one gesture that I understand.
And that was at the county or the town?
I think it was the town.
That was on Hamilton or Belvedere?
I'm
Mr.
not-
Santos, you said that they came and filled the holes. Who's, the village?
Yeah.
Okay, I
That
wasn't
was a
sure.
one-time.
No,
Village
several
is-
times a year.
They do it ongoing.
Because the road itself is not dirt, it's not a packed dirt road anymore. It's full of tailings that goes in from highway waste. Because they had to build up the road. My understanding, they had to build up the road in order to put asphalt on and do whatever they had to do. So they built it up, but they never coated it or covered it, and that becomes a more complicated story. So, which we could get into another time.
Now, when you say they built it up, do you mean the residents got together?
No,
Okay.
most of about half the residents don't actually live there. And I
But when
wouldn't
they
know
were
how to
gonna
get in
do the
touch.
paving, that was, sure we weren't doing that not knowing.
That was,
Anthony.
well, that was I was not involved when Anthony was mayor, but I was involved when Seth Gallagher was mayor. So, I know that there was some discussion about how wide there was some agreement about how wide it would be, et cetera, et cetera. They weren't going to need sidewalks, and my recollection is that they required us to get everybody's approval of the plan, and my memory, which could be faulty, is that we did get approval from everybody for the plan, but then the then village lawyer added a stipulation that we would have to deed whatever that spit of land was over to the village.
Right.
In practical terms, if you take a bunch of people, some of whom are absent, and you say to them, you can either spend $3,000 to deed this and we'll do the road, or we'll just keep doing what we've been doing and no harm will come to you, the motivation's low, especially when the one holdout doesn't actually use the road, they just own their driveways on 9D. So it was not a if the goal was to get it done, it was not a well-handled process, if that makes.
That makes perfect sense.
Okay.
My observation of the East Belvedere roadbed is that whatever is done to it or has been done to it in the past lasts a very short period of time. The intersection of East Belvedere and Route 9D, it's a moat. And it is a moat in all seasons. So it's not clear to me what the value is in filling in the potholes, since, and I don't technically know what the problem is for putting fill in, but it doesn't last. It washes away, whatever. The width of the roadbed is incredibly narrow. When someone parks currently on the dirt road, there is barely enough room for a large vehicle, such as the garbage truck, to get past it. It almost scrapes by. So the width of the roadbed is terribly substandard in terms of what exists elsewhere in the village on village streets. Private streets, specifically West Bank, is probably similar. The Cedar Street extension may also be similar in terms of width. But I mean, it's just, you throw stuff in the pothole and you come back 2 weeks later and it's gone. It doesn't stay, it doesn't stick.
That's true.
My experience driving on it every day has been, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that typically it seems to develop potholes that deserve to be filled about twice a year. Does that sound about?
That's reasonable, yes.
So they don't redevelop immediately, but they do redevelop, and I think it's a function of the fact that it's not, it's not graded properly, it's not curved to flow out.
But if it were crowned,
Crown, thank you.
you would then have a drainage problem in your front yards.
You do regardless.
Yeah.
It's regardless.
If
Well,
the,
it would worsen
It's
though.
not crowned now.
well, remember also that the height of the road has been built up in preparation to have the asphalt. At least this is what I was given to understand. What I was given to understand is that the road used to sit lower, that there was a concerted effort made to build the road up in preparation for crowning it. And so where there would be an actual channel that wasn't into people's lawns. But I haven't seen what was approved for the road. I think that you would find, I mean, the one difficulty is that there are a number of people who live on the street who aren't there or vested in it very much. But I think you'd find that some of us would be more than happy to try and help figure out a better way if the subject were reopened. I do have to say that, given the number of years during which this filling potholes twice a year took place, there's really no neighborhood group taking care, there's nobody to talk to about taking care of the road, if that makes sense. Like I could not compel any of my neighbors to do anything about it, cause we don't have there's no shared interest in the road. Does that make sense? I don't know if that's typical or atypical, but it would not be a simple matter to take the street and say, okay, now it's your guys' deal, for what it's worth.
Well, typically, if the village actually legally took it over, we'd have to straighten out the ownership. And then we'd also, I believe, have to have the road in the condition that which would be up to the residents of when we took it over, it should be in the condition that would be maintained. That's how it's done, I believe, in the town, so. I mean, and again, that might be wrong on that, but that's, whatever.
I know that what we did, when we had the one holdout, funds had been allocated from a state program for properly making that road, whatever it was. I have no idea if it's expired by now.
Do you know how long ago that was?
That would have been.
Seth, right, you said?
No, Anthony.
No, it was
Seth?
definitely
I think so.
well into Seth's first term.
Yeah, 'cause you said you weren't around for, yeah.
I was here when Anthony was mayor, but I was also here, obviously, when Seth was. I was in some of the meetings where it came up with Seth.
Okay.
Now, if I remember correctly, the sewer pipe in that road is substandard as well.
It was, one of the primary motives was in order to provide access for the village to access the water main because it's connected directly to the rest, which right now you don't have any way of accessing except by digging, which did become an issue, sometime in the past 5
Right.
years, I think.
It's also, it's just a mess.
Okay, well, we're not doing anything immediately, and I'll have a long conversation with our highway crew chief and see if I can I'll find out what he feels the cost is to fill the potholes, how long, when we do it, I'll get all the information. He brought it up last week, so.
I'm sure that's, I mean, just speaking for myself and my wife, I mean, we'd love to resolve it in a more permanent fashion, but we recognize that there are limits.
What would, I mean, is there a way to get the rest of the neighbors to talk about that, or, I mean, you know, that's not.
I think it would be wonderful if we could discover whether the plans that were put in place that were halted at the last minute because the holdout still exists, or whether the funding exists or could be revived. I think that would be a wonderful thing to be able to.
Are we talking about the holdout who just put a for rent sign up in their front yard?
Could be, it was the Mills who we visited and,
Yep.
from time to time, and were
Yep.
lovely people, but as I said, they had their driveway isn't on the street. They were being asked to spend money to deed their property over to the village when
Right.
they had no
Interest in doing so, no vested interest in doing so.
Yeah,
Well, see, I'm sure the funding's not available like that, that was agreed upon at that time. I'm sure that expired, but we could talk to Anthony and see, you know, where the funding was coming from, like,
that would be
That was a long time
very
ago.
kind if you could.
'Cause
I remember a little bit about this, cause I was on the board then with Sam.
there it is.
That was, I believe the funding was, we had applied for the funding for the federal reinvestment grant to rebuild infrastructure in towns and villages. That was an Obama initiative that I think is now gone. I mean, that was part of that.
Yeah, we got all the chips.
In any case, I think it might be a good reference point if we can discover what was intended.
You don't have any kind of a board, I mean, like typically if it was a condo group or anything, there would be a
No.
board that regulates that, you
No.
have nothing, so
We
so
don't have
there's
that.
no way to,
Private homeowners.
so there's no way to even get together.
Could
and do
organize
something.
a homeowners organization.
Don't say that, don't say that.
My real estate attorney was eager to have us deed it over and be done with it. She said it's rare that you have an opportunity for everybody to agree on the street, and lo and behold, she was right.
How many absentees are there on your street?
Half, right? I don't know if the absentees.
3 out of 7, I believe,
Three.
yeah,
3 out of 7.
the 7 homes.
Not more than
And one
that?
of them, I'm not so sure.
They're rented,
too.
I thought there were more than that.
I think her sons are handling it.
But they don't live
The one at the end of the
Correct.
cul-de-sac.
Yeah, the houses.
Yeah, okay, I think we're way off track. I don't need to know the numbers or how many windows are in each house. I will talk to the highway chief, I'll get as much information as I can. I did talk to our attorney just a little bit, and, you know, it was just a quick phone conversation with, you know, there was no exact answer to my questions, so, and, you know, and it was just like, you know, hi, you know, what do you think of this? So he didn't have an answer, and I tried to describe everything. I didn't know if the land, the property lines go to the center, whatever. I have more information now, so, you know, we'll work it out. We're not gonna just pull a rug out or anything, and, so, just give me a little more time, and,
Much appreciated.
if you want to, give us, you know, maybe write an email or address, we can keep in touch with you, so we can, you know, follow up, that'd be good.
Same thing for Hamilton
Yeah.
Street.
Yeah, again,
Okay.
the property lines aren't as complicated as Belvedere.
I have paper.
Whatever you wanna do.
But you're saying the property, the property lines on all the property, or
Yep.
at the edge of the
Street
road.
is an open element.
So as far as you think the village owns your street?
No, nobody owns it.
I mean,
It belongs to no one. It resides in the confines of the village borders. That's the physical connected. That's it.
Alright,
We use it, it gets us out to 9D. Come back in. There is something to their argument. Our street has been fortunate in being graded or existing in a fashion where it does drain fairly reasonably. I think that's the other benefit of, yeah, we've got some potholes, they're as old as I am, a couple of them. But we don't have the side drainage problem that Belvedere has.
right.
Ours seems to migrate down basically into your old backyard and toward Carruth's old house.
It
That's
goes
how
towards
it's
Way
been.
Hill.
And even one of the neighbors, in a real heavy storm, it'll pond up behind your house,
Right.
Dad's house. Quite a bit. Occasionally, it's not an everyday thing,
Right.
but that's nature, not the design of the street.
Okay, we'll follow up, if you guys wanna, you can, I can give you a piece of paper here and a pen.
Right, we're ready.
Oh, you got it?
yeah.
You guys,
I'm on the village email
okay,
or mornings announcements. The only other thing I'll throw at you is the logistics of making older people try to trundle out their garbage, which is part of their point. And the other end of it, which
we
is.
fall into that category
Oh,
now.
I know. Thank you very
As long as you
much.
point that way, not this way, that works.
The slightly more elderly. The unfairness to the two people who have their homes at the end of the street who will have to endure, 20 plus garbage cans in their yard. Do they
I got you.
deserve that? No. So it's a cascading potential problem.
Noted,
So,
thank you. And thank you guys for all coming in to,
Yes.
you know, instead of going to Facebook and solving it. So I appreciate it, thanks. We'll be back in touch.
hey, thank you.
Anything else?
Well, it might be helpful on East Belvedere to speak to all the people there, and just to make sure everybody knows what's going on. I know you said only the three of you just found out about this recently, but you know, maybe kind of.
reach everybody.
Arena says everyone's.
Arena's told everybody.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
Alright,
how Pat
well,
found out.
thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Joe, anything?
Oh, what's that? Oh, there was one last item on the agenda, well, it wasn't on the agenda. Fran, you can speak to it?
Yes. I know we don't typically have a meeting on April 17th. The village wanted to do a proclamation for Joetta for his 100th birthday. Wanted to get together and maybe do a proclamation that evening, a little bit of a party for Joetta. So is everyone okay with having a meeting on April 17th at 7 o'clock? To do
I'm
that?
fine.
It would be a short.
Forward to.
Okay, just the 7 o'clocks are difficult for me, but 7:30 is okay.
We can do 7:30.
Okay, 7:30?
7:30 works for you guys, if it's not much of a
7:30 is
burden
fine.
on you, that would be easier for me.
Okay. It wouldn't be a long meeting.
No, it won't be, it'll just be very short, and refreshments, and if there's anything else we have to seal up, we will. Marie, you don't have to come, you look
Good,
very happy
good.
about it.
I'm unhappy.
Celebrations, I know, are a downer to you.
They are. They are.
So it's.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Who seconded? Marie seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
It's very unusual, but I recommend a meeting on a non-meeting.
I know.
Yeah, what day of the week is that?